Morning for Thursday, October 29th. Hey, I like money. I like talking about money. I like thinking about money. I wish I had more money, but I don't. That's a story for another day. I hosted a radio show here for 10 and a half years covering the Pittsburgh Pirates and talking about money a lot because that's something that was huge with the Pirates. I could always tell when I would talk about money that people kind of lose interest. We love sports, okay? And we love to think about all aspects of sports. But when it comes to talking money, eyes gloss over, kind of goes in one ear, out the other. A lot of sports fans don't really like talking and hearing a lot about money. But there was a point, an interesting bit of news that came out on Wednesday that is extremely important for Penn State. In a fundraising effort that Penn State has called One Team, it came out that Penn State is expecting a revenue shortfall of more than $70 million. Now, this is serious. I was joking earlier about money. This is pretty serious when it comes to the future of Penn State athletics. So I want to get into that a little bit today. All right, and just talk about how this arms race and keeping up with the Joneses in college sports just got so far out of hand. And now with the pandemic, it's just brought everybody back to reality. I think in sports in general, we've lived in this fantasy world for a long, long time. College sports, professional sports, everybody is this fantasy world where you hear 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars. It goes in one ear and out the other. Your eyes gloss. So you can't fathom a $70 million revenue shortfall because that's not part of your real life. It'll never be part of your real life. And so these monetary figures, we just gloss over them. But these are huge numbers for Penn State and for college athletics all around the country. We're going to focus on Penn State here today because Penn State for the last few years has been talking about a facilities master plan in which they were going to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for renovations across campus, including upwards of maybe $500 million or even more in upgrades to Beaver Stadium. How do you do all of that when you're in a pandemic and you're looking at a $70 million revenue shortfall and you're going out and you're asking your fans and your donors to give more money? These are serious issues that Penn State is going to face because Beaver Stadium is in dire need of a lot of significant upgrades. When you get in Beaver Stadium and you see the bowl full of 107,000 people, it's gorgeous. Tremendous atmosphere, as we've always talked about, one of the best atmospheres, if not the best atmosphere in all of college football. Underneath the stadium, different story. Outside the stadium, it's called an erector set for a reason. There are a lot of things that can be done to Beaver Stadium to enhance the look of the outside, and certainly things that need to be done to Beaver Stadium to enhance the stadium itself to make sure that it is safe and functional for decades to come. That costs a lot of money. A lot of money. So when I throw out a number of $500 million on Beaver Stadium, that's all part of one fundraising program that Penn State has been working toward for the last few years. How close are they on those goals? We don't know. They don't really release those kinds of things. But that is a massive, massive project with their facilities master plan, not just with Beaver Stadium, but with venues across the campus. And they've done a good job. They've spent some money already. Then the pandemic hits. Now we're looking at just some serious shortfalls when it comes to money. I'm going to go to men's basketball because this is something that I'm passionate about and I've talked about for years. The men's basketball program is in desperate need of more money. Where's that money going to come from? There's no money for men's basketball. Patrick Chambers made about $1 million, $1.1 million. All you Penn State basketball fans that want them to go out and get a big name coach, where's that money going to come from? There's no money to pay a big name coach for men's basketball. Men's basketball is probably not going to be great year after year. So we all that love basketball would like to see them go sink $2, $3, $4 million more into men's basketball, but they can't. They don't have that money. They have a $70 million revenue shortfall. And quite frankly, this is where things get interesting. Football is the cash cow at Penn State, and it makes so much of the money. You can kind of say, hey, football should get all the money. If they're going to make all the money, or most of the money? Shouldn't they get all the money? And I would say as a basketball fan, they should spend more money on men's basketball, but why should they? Why should they? If that extra $1 million or $2 million that I'd like them to spend on men's basketball could go to football to keep up with the Joneses in the arms race, hey, that's where you're going to get more return on your investment. But look, when we're talking about money now, we're talking about Penn State sitting here with 31 sports. Is that feasible? Is that viable for the long term? Sandy Barbour is a tremendous athletic director. Sandy Barbour has made it her mission, both at Cal and then when she came here, she is very, very much in favor of the student athlete. She is very opposed to cutting sports. She is tremendously in favor of giving the student athletes the best possible situation while they're on campus, and that's commendable. I have a lot of respect for Sandy Barbour from that standpoint. But the reality is, can Penn State support and continue to finance 31 sports? I hate to say it, but the answer to that may be no. There are universities across this country. Stanford cut a lot of sports. Other universities having to cut sports. And when you're talking this kind of revenue shortfall on top of the expenses that this school is already going to have in the coming years with Beaver Stadium and other facilities, these are some very, very interesting and potentially troubling times for Penn State. Now, Penn State's not alone in this. A lot of universities around the country are going to be dealing with these exact same questions. But the issue with Penn State is it's 31 sports and it is a self-sustaining athletic department. That means that they pay for everything in athletics on its own. They don't get money from the university and the university system to help them pay for athletics. They sustain athletics, or they always have. Is that model still sustainable? Will they still be able to pay for 31 sports and pay for everything that they need without taking money from other parts of the university? Again, very tricky and maybe some troubling times here. But when you think about where we've been in college sports, and it's just this fantasy world of now you got to pay a coach $3 million and $4 million and $5 million and $6 million and all these bonuses and all these buyouts and things that schools are going on, having Pitt, for instance. Pat Narduzzi should probably be gone at Pitt after this year, but he's under contract through 2024. Can Pitt afford to pay his buyout if they don't get all that money from donors? Well, donors are probably hurting themselves from the pandemic, unless you're Jeff Bezos or some other billionaire that just made tons of more money while the rest of the country suffered. So again, these troubling times have made us take a step back, take 10 steps back, and look at the reality of sports with the finances and how we have just wasted money. Entities across this country have just wasted money on sports and just spent willy-nilly here and there, millions for you, to where you, the fans, you don't even recognize. When I talk about a $70 million revenue shortfall, doesn't that kind of go in one ear and out the other? You can't comprehend $70 million, but you know who can comprehend it? Penn State, because they're dealing with that right now, and how all of this shakes out will be a major, major factor on what Penn State athletics are into the future. Have a good day, folks.